last 4 months
Professor, you're
abuse.
smart,
No.
I've read your stuff, and I've read your writings, and I don't want to get bogged down with this, but I have little respect for your opinion because I've read your stuff. When someone is in the White House that you agree with, and someone gets a universal injunction against him, you don't like universal injunctions. You called them judges acting like they're politicians in robes and judges looking like crass political actors. But now that President Trump's in the White House, who you dislike, you think that universal injunctions taste like pumpkin pie. So I have to discount what you say because I think you act on your political beliefs. And I worry that that's what you're teaching your kids.
What's up, Patriots? Welcome back to Liberty Trigger, where we call it like it is. No spin, no excuses, just truth. Today, we got Senator John Kennedy absolutely roasting a bunch of so-called legal experts in a Senate hearing. And folks, this was brutal. You're gonna love it. Now listen, Kennedy didn't tiptoe around. He brought receipts. He exposed their hypocrisy. And he made one professor wish he'd stayed home that day. So buckle up. Smash that like button right now, because this is one of those moments you want to share with every single friend who's sick of double standards in Washington. Here's the deal. When Democrats are in the White House, these professors cry about nationwide injunctions. They call judges politicians in robes.
Professor, let me ask you this while I have you. On April 22nd, 2024, you said there are some members of the Supreme Court that are evil. Which justices were you talking about?
I'll take it your word, Senator. I don't recall using that word, but
All right, here's what you said. You were talking about the majority opinion in Muldrow v. City of St. Louis. You said, quote, Justice Kagan, will she be able to control the opinion's future distortion by her evil colleagues? Probably not, end quote. Who were you talking about?
sir, I'm very skeptical. If it's a transcription, it was probably a transcription error. I do not think I said.
No, you said it. Why don't you own up to it? Which you call some of the members of the Supreme Court evil. Now, which ones do you think are evil?
I would have to refresh my recollection. I've been very critical
You're
of some
embarrassed
members of the
that
Supreme
you made
Court.
that statement, aren't you?
I'm
You're an
telling
officer
Senator, it
of the
doesn't sound
court.
like something that
You know
I
what
would
I'm
say.
embarrassed at? That you're teaching our kids.
I don't refer to Supreme Court justices as evil in
Did,
the
right here,
in the classroom,
on
sir.
your podcast, April 22nd, 2024.
Okay, well,
Big as Dallas. And you're an officer of the court, and you're here advising us to be respectful to federal judges, and you say they're evil members of the United States Supreme Court? Gag me with a spoon.
No, Senator.
Let me ask you about this. What if we had a rule? I was reading an article the other day. I'm not suggesting it. I just want your opinions. That said, if a president, any president, issues an executive order, let's say, that clearly violates settled Supreme Court precedent, that a federal judge can't issue a nationwide injunction. For example, if a federal a president issued an order that said no one in America has right to counsel any longer, including but not limited to, in a felony case, having the government pay for your lawyer if you can't afford it. That clearly violates settled Gideon v. Wainwright. In that case, a judge has no authority or does have authority to issue a nationwide injunction. But in a case where the law is unclear, a judge should refrain from that. Now, obviously, we'd have to trust our judges, but we're supposed to be able to trust them anyway. What do you think about that?
I don't agree with that, Senator, because I think universal injunctions transgress the limitations under Article 3, even if the underlying merits are clear.
I happen to agree with you. I don't think there's any basis under Article 3, under Supreme Court precedent, under the English common law for nationwide injunctions. I think politicians have helped judges, and many judges are politicians, to just make it up. And many of them are like Professor Shaw here. If they like the president, they're against nationwide injunctions. If they don't like the president, they're for him.
But when Trump was in office, suddenly those injunctions taste like pumpkin pie. That's not law. That's politics. And Kennedy nailed him for it. Pause, lean in. He told the truth. Too many judges act like activists. And that robe they wear, it's not a uniform of neutrality anymore. It's just a costume for political games. But here's where Kennedy stood out. He didn't just complain. He offered solutions. Automatic stays. Fast-tracked appeals. Real reforms to keep activist judges from hijacking the system. Then he dropped a hypothetical. What if a president issued an order banning Americans from having a lawyer in felony cases? That would obviously violate Supreme Court precedent. In that case, yes, a judge should step in. But in gray areas, judges need to stay in their lane. Period. And Kennedy made it clear, Article 3, Supreme Court precedent, common law. None of them justify nationwide injunctions. None. Then came the knockout punch. Kennedy looked the professor dead in the eye and said, "Did you really call some Supreme Court justices evil?" The guy froze. He squirmed. He blamed a transcription error. He backpedaled so hard, I thought he'd trip over his own chair. But Kennedy didn't let him off. He slammed him. "You're supposed to be teaching our kids, and you're calling Supreme Court justices evil? Gag me with a spoon." Boom. Silence. That professor had nothing left. Just embarrassment. And this is what makes patriots like us furious. The left loves a lecture about respecting institutions, until the court rules against them. Then, they smear justices, call them illegitimate, and even threaten to pack the court. Kennedy cut through that garbage. He reminded everyone, judges are supposed to interpret law, not act like politicians. And when they do act like politicians, they undermine the very system they claim to defend. So here's my take, patriots. John Kennedy didn't just win that hearing. He exposed the truth. He embarrassed the elites. And he stood tall for the Constitution. That's what leadership looks like. That's what America needs. If you think Senator Kennedy delivered the smackdown this country's been waiting for, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment below with the word truth. Share this video with every patriot you know. And don't forget to subscribe, because we are not letting the left get away with their hypocrisy. Not here, not now, not ever. God bless John Kennedy. God bless you, patriots. And God bless the United States of America.